Today we're going to talk about networks. I'm going to do all of this from the CLI. I'll actually show you how to create an instance. Actually, we're going to create a couple of them. Show you how to ping between those networks, so add networks at create time of the instance. I'm going to show you how to actually create a network using the Triton CLI tool. And so we'll actually use that network that we create, and then we're going to go ahead and add it to these instances, and then we're going to ping between them. So let's go ahead and get that started. One of the great things about Triton and the CLI tool is the help function. So a lot of times when I'm using the CLI tool, I remember a lot of things, but one of the awesome things is we have great documentation built right inside the CLI tool itself. So I'm going to do Triton network create, and I'm actually going to do -- help. So the -- help is going to show us all of the options we can use when we're creating a network using the Triton network create. And so I use the -- help a lot because it helps me. It actually gives you some really great examples down here at the bottom. We're actually going to use this example, and we're going to actually create this network. We're going to use this ops example here because it comes to the DNS resolver as well as NAT, which in this case isn't critical because the instances that we're going to create to connect to them, they're going to need a public IP. So it's going to be using that as the primary NIC. But we are going to be communicating between these instances using this network that we create. So if you look at the Triton network create help, as I brought up here, you'll see all the different options and what you're going to need when you're actually doing the create options. Like I said, these examples down here at the bottom are the great way to learn how to do this, as far as adding static routes, and of course it's showing the VLAN options and the resolver, gateway, all those options that you need to create a network. So I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this example over directly. Okay, and I'm going to just paste this command in here. So as you saw, you need to make sure you have a VLAN that's already available depending on what your network setup is. So now we've created that network. So I'm going to go to Triton network list. We're now going to see the ops network here. So, and there's a short ID right here on the left-hand side. There's also the name. And so now we're going to create an instance. So I've actually got my Visual Studio Code notepad here with an instance I'm going to create. And I've already added the first fabric I have, but let's go ahead and add this new network, this ops network. So when you use the network option when you're creating an instance, -- network, in this case we're doing a SmartOS base 64 LTS instance. When you use the network option, you can add multiple networks separated by a comma. By default, it's going to give us this public network right here, the Joyent SDC public. But we're going to make sure we add it in here. We'll add it in first. But by default, you'll get a public IP unless you specify not to have it. But we're going to go ahead and add it in here on this list. So let's go ahead and provision this instance. And while we wait for this one to provision, we're going to create that second instance. So I'm just going to uptick the number here by 1. So I'm going to call this web test 2. It's going to have the same set of networks. So let's go ahead and start provisioning that one as well. Now both of our instances have provisioned. You can go ahead and go to Triton instance list. And we're going to see both web test 1 and web test 2 running. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Triton tool, the Triton SSH tool, to connect to both these instances. We'll list their IP addresses that are on the ops network and the fabric network, and we're going to use both of those to ping each other. So let's start and connect to web test 1. All right, we're in that one. we're on box number 2. So now let's go ahead and list out the IP addresses. So this is our public IP right here on the primary NIC. And we see on the secondary NIC here. And then on the third NIC here, we see the ops network that we have here. So let's go ahead and let's go look at the details of web test number 2. We'll see the public IP, the MyFabric network, and the ops network, .11 and .10. So let's go ahead and try to ping web test 1. It's alive. We'll do the same here. Successful. And let's go ahead and 7.6. As you can see, using that network option with the Triton CLI tool, you can easily provision instances, create networks, and then those provision networks can be used on those instances. In this case, we have 2 different fabric NICs connected on both of these instances. And that way we can use this to transfer data between them, having our own private VLAN using software-defined networking. It's very easy to set up, and you get incredible options here. Thank you very much, and see you on the next video.